Hi everyone. Today I've decided to bring in some information with regards to the current changes that we're undergoing. I will be bringing in a bit of information from certain sources that I will bring up in this video. It is about a destruction or destructive golden age or perceived or projected ideology that is in the making, and the information around this is related to. I would rather advise you to use absolute discernment when you listen to what I'm going to present. Although I have made it very clear in my notes that it is something that you will be able to distinguish when you are at the end of the video. So I would advise you to please not skip through because you may miss some details. And if you're at the end of the video and you've listened to it fully, then that's good for you because then you have understood the process in the making. So there are at the moment two particular timelines that are vying for influence, and these timelines are basically field dynamics, which is related to the uh, people versus that which is projected into the system and the infrastructures for people to become influenced by. So one is operating from the normal process, which is based on within the spirit. That means that which is within you versus that which is on the outside of you. That last video that I made about the pluralistic, godlike, God kingdom, godhood, godheads that people are being programmed to go into, this, the chosen one thing. It's a theme. So that theme leads up to a type of golden age, um, which is in contradiction to what this channel is all about. The channel is not about introducing golden age for the chosen ones or anything like that. That is not how I operate on this channel. If you've been with me for a long time, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. For those that are new, I thank you for joining this channel, for subscribing to it, and please feel free to ask questions and please go through all of the material. The most important material that has been put on this channel not is about the Beyond Thunderdome, and from there onwards till the latest video, I would advise you to listen and study all of that until you come to the philosophy, which is the information that you need to use to help yourself. And only it is by your choice. I'm not forcing anything onto anyone, as you know, and that information is free. So I hope that you have had a uh, peaceful week, and I hope that the material that I am going to present to you will uh, touch you in a way that you are able to find some deeper aspect within yourself. Now, I have written notes down here, so I will reading from my notes, and I will source and cite where I have to cite, and the information is will start with the introduction and what is the golden age, alchemy, the actual golden age. So there are two things that are happening at this moment when the spirit has developed in such a way it is very strongly um, affecting the people and the places and things around them. You affect people around you whether you are aware of it or not. And this is based on a path in which the spirit has um, grown to reach this level. So, this level has perhaps been reached before many ages ago, but it hasn't been able to perpetuate itself through. So, I am just reminding you and bringing the information through from what I have been able to pick up. And that is how I do my work. all of the work that I present here comes from internal guidance. I do not use guides, spirit guides, angels, or anything like that. I connect with the original creative force, which I call the original creative force or a great spirit. You may call it something else, but that is the original being that has existed long before any fake gods have been created. It is also the only name that I can give to that energy field that is not insulting the being, the energy field. That doesn't mean that the energy field or the original creative force is an alien, although it may appear to be alien to people that have been focusing on deep or subjected beliefs in terms of certain religions. So, in terms of that, I want to create the distinction that this is why this channel is very unique. All the material in this channel is coming from an internal guidance. And as you know, the material is also very dense and or complex. So I would advise for you to take your time, and while you're listening to it, you can make your notes and everything. Please, if you do, share, like, and subscribe this channel. When you share the material, you give credit to the to the creative energy of and within this channel, and to yourself as well, and to me. Um, there are those that are actually harvesting the information from various channels all over the world, and those are the pirates that are spiritually pirating on the frequency itself. So those are the ones that are pushing for the chosen one golden age, golden cage in narrative. Okay, so we have. I hope I've explained that for you in a better understanding. Then we will discuss masculine and feminine energy. We will then also discuss a summary on and excerpts from the background of why I present what I do in terms of the fake golden age. And then I will bring out an excerpt from a specific chapter, and I'll touch briefly on the details of the book, The Secret Order Rituals of the Golden Dawn, which is correlating to the fake golden age that is being presented or projected into the system as we speak. And then I want to explain what is actualization and the difference, and to understand what is creation, and then some snippets on the Golden Dawn, the Rosicrucians, builders of Adytum, etc. And then my conclusions at the end of the video. So I hope that this will find you well, and we will begin. So the information that I'm going to present is associated with what I find in the book and in the Order of the Golden Dawn, because they are the ones, and why I have selected them as the ones that are bringing, or the harbingers of the specific fake golden age. And the timeline in terms of where we are in development of the human civilization is roughly around now. So this is not to say that I'm not saying that this is the Aquarian age or anything like that. Although I speculate when I say that I think it is so. Um, but I'm not an astrologer, and I will only bring up certain things if I find it worth bringing up with regards to astrology. There are other people that are doing the astrology as a profession. Okay. So emerging from the darkening, as I've mentioned in the last few videos, is basically a type of clarification of energetic reveal. So I explained in the material of the darkening that the darkening is an alchemical process of revealing things from the leveling out, or the evening out of the playing field, which was meant to happen so that people would be able to start to come to that point of understanding, of discovering that which has been hidden from them. And so, darkening is an energetic, metaphysical terminology which is related to alchemy. An alchemy stage to process and to ultimately create gold um, requires certain stages that the system has to go through, or the person that has to do the work has to go through. You can look at this. I'm also not an alchemist, so I'm giving this to you as how I understand it to be. So, in order to understand why the sum of the title is so important, because of the title that I gave to this specific video, I thought it was very important to bring it in, um, where I am explaining that we must understand what is the difference between actual golden age, which is related to the age of development of the spirit, versus a false dichotomy, which I call the golden cage, which relates to the pluralistic belief in multiple gods, or people being gods themselves, as well as believing that pluralism or pandemonium or pan related around the world is based on that frequency, and that frequency is not the same as what we're discussing. What is a typical uh, description or recognition of a golden age? Typically, social so-called advancements, okay, in changing the framework of societies, such as after the medieval period, formerly known as the Dark Age. That is a perception-based development in terms of advancements. Okay, so a golden age is a period in which most things seem to be in appearance better than any other age. The last most important golden age, I would say, was around the 1900s, where most of the information had just come out. Nikola Tesla was around, and so forth. There were so many other people that came out in that time as well with new ideas and advancements. This is actually happening right now, although it might not be prevalent or visible to many, but you can actually feel that there's a difference in the frequency. So, in other words, changes in societies, changes in life buildings and technology. In other words, people associate the ideology of the golden age as a crescent or a crest in which there is peak advancement of all things in the material realm. Now, that it relates very strongly to what they tried to implement with the uh, NWO and the associated elements around that. But I do want to tell you that the New World Order, that is the NWO, um, the has always been every 100 years, so it's not something new. The civilization of humanity has always developed and always come to that point where they would reach a 100 year mark, and those that are in charge or controlling the narratives of this material realm have then been able to cook up the information of 100 years because it's easier for them. Now, the latest development in terms of what happened in 2019 was the announcement of saying that everything that was related to before BC, which, as you know, that one was the dark medieval age, and everything after that is the announcement of the new age. So that is basically what they've been doing all this time. They've been trying to push that agenda, and when I say they, I think it's there are so many details to describe them, although they are worshippers of gods and themselves. I would call them the Ministry of Magic. Okay, so basically, these guys don't know how to invent anything. They are copy paste dystopian genres that they present over and over and over to try and keep the system in a particular process. So that ideology or that idea of creating something that's going to be there in the distance and everyone's going to work towards that point is never going to happen because the future does not exist. The future happens um, in the present moment. and when you're able to clear up things from the past. So at this moment, I'm saying that, however, for those who are aware, the New World Order and its renditions, because those are renditions of golden ages, uh, were always about collapsing a natural order of growth from internal development. So, original creative force and the spirit, much like what is within you, has been keeping that frequency of continuous um, swamping you at bay. And it's done so more now over the last few months. Um, so it is struggling to uphold its own. They are struggling to keep up, to hold up their side, their timeline. So they are then doing other things to try and bring in ideologies for people to believe in, such as to bring in information on the chess playing, which is actually just a Masonic tracing board all over again. So they start from the beginning because they don't know where to start. They don't know how to not, they don't know how to create anything new. Okay, so you're looking at the copy paste guys, the ministries of magic, and many other people that have massive following to try and influence people. So the latest thing is that they wish to alter the consciousness with either technology, so you get that side of them, and you get the ones that are extremely new age orientated, where it's now possible to walk through walls and all that shit, which is absolute hogwash. It's not possible to do that unless you wish to do that. Okay, metaphysics, on the other hand, which is related to this channel, and the information that I'm presenting is based on how deep you are able to think and understand the energy around you. What are energies? How are you integrated to it? How is it integrated to you? Are you part of it or are you not? And if you are, how do you apply certain aspects in your life? So if you don't understand what metaphysics is, please, there's a video called Metaphysics 101. I explain to you the particular material that I present on this channel so you can see that as an introduction. So go there. Needless to say, what I'm bringing into the idea for you to understand, into the premise for you, is the metamorphosis and the change from the spirit where it was initially a few months ago to where it is currently as actuality, which is why their systems are collapsing in a very specific way. It's collapsing sideways. It's not collapsing down like you would find it fall down. It's collapsing all along the fault lines, um, left, right. It's going sideways. Okay, and that is because they've altered information from other timelines or other events to alter the reality, which they present as narratives. Okay, and a reality is based on a narrative of where you are in yourself, and I will explain that at much later time as well. So um, the information as it is right now, in terms of what you have been doing, has brought quite a lot of things out to be discussed. So the information from your actions, from your life, your experiences have brought out a lot of changes in the frequency around you. When I say frequency, I'm saying when you, like I've said before, whatever you think and do and speak, it does affect things around you. I don't need to explain the story about the water. Um, Masimoto, I think, is the guy with the rice in the water. That already in itself is something for you to be mindful of because it does actually exist. And so, if you're able to change things in that way, you just need to simplify it, how you think of yourself. And this is why you are being reminded to take note of specifically the material of the information as we speak right now, because this is to tell you and announce to you that whatever you've been doing in terms of loving yourself and self care has literally started to alter the dynamics of the material realm around you. So the actualization of your senses and of the internal self with the relationship of your spirit, which is inside of you. We have mind, body, soul, and spirit. The spirit is the main element. The soul is not the one thing that that is the that suggests that that's what you have. You are more than just that, okay? Because it's your spirit that essentially um, leaves this material plane when you pass away. Everything goes into you. Your soul ascends into your spirit. It is not the other way around. Okay, so actualization as a sense of the understanding of that which is within you, your spirit, your soul, your mind, your body, your senses, everything that is in alignment has undergone a type of shift because you have been working on loving yourself. So you can feel that there's some changes. You can also feel that the changes are quite bad. Some changes are actually different than you would have expected. Now, in the sense of understanding that this is part of actualization. So I'm not saying, when I say actualization, I'm not saying, yeah, you're going to actually go through some sort of fantastic experience. You're going to grow a unicorn horn and you're going to be like running and jumping over the rainbows. That's not what I'm talking about. Although some people might want that. I don't really care about that stuff. To me, the development in terms of where you are, where you were a year ago or 2 years ago to where you are now is radical. And this radical change is based on the information in the philosophy, which is on this channel as well. The development of where you are in your life. And so the specific information is something that some people find boring. They don't want to know that it's going better with you. They don't really care. They want to be stuck on the chosen one thing. They want to keep being in that state because that chosen one ideology relates to the pluralistic gods being gods. Or then there's a reason or a purpose to their existence because that is how literally how low their self-esteems are, or how little they think of themselves that they feel they need to be that far up or that high up. Or some people actually present themselves as holier than thou, or the adversary to destroy whatever is in your life. So it's whatever works, whatever it is. Whenever there's an archetype present, whenever there's a strife or a striving to have an archetype involved in the change of your life, there is the problem. You will know. I mean, you'll know that the so-called governments are exactly those type of egregores, those entities that are this fat frog in this little pond, um, fed and fed and fed. It's like that thing in Star Wars, that fat thing in Star Wars. I can't remember. I'm talking about the old Star Wars, not the first ones, not this latest junk that they're presenting. Human gods, human saviors. So this is why I'm bringing up the information about. So out of darkening as a process comes actualization. And actualization is based on the growth inside of you. That is the simple part of it. The current energetic frequency of the darkening is dissipating. But what's coming out of that is a, let's call it a goldening energy. So they are aware that something's happening inside of people, but they're jumping on the wagon to try and replicate a new age. They've been trying to do this for centuries. They've tried to do it with Horus. Now it's Osiris. Now Mary has turned into Osiris. And I will show you because this is where they're going with this. This is why they're using the information of the Sophia Gnostic parts and turning Sophia now into a savior as a dark goddess that is going to that doesn't need men, and that she's just the queen of it all, the queen of swords, the queen of cups, or whatever you want to call it in tarot. That is the frequency that they're trying to present now because they're desperate. Okay. They're making her dark because they're a bit behind in terms of the growth of the changes, and most likely because it's dark for them as well. So when I say it's dark for them, I'm saying dark as in terms of you're needing to face your own shit, fella. You need to go into yourself and literally work on what it is that's deep there inside of your crevices where you are not telling anyone anything about. And I'm referring to any and people, places, and things that are related to actually antagonistically going against the awareness of self love and the spirit of what is within you. Okay. So those are the people or things, people, places, and entities that are literally you. I'm differentiating between where you are, who you are, versus what there is around you. I don't think I need to explain more. So in terms of alchemy, and I don't want to go too long because this video is going to be rather lengthy. So I do want you to prepare yourself for a lengthy video. You can listen to it in chapters, of course, as well. So bringing alchemy in, theoretically, we need to understand that lead is turned into gold. That is the part, that is the theoretical explaining of turning lead into gold, which means it's a progress of growth from where you were once in yourself to where you're going towards. Some growth has happened. And I have written down a quote here where the quote is: prepare the right reagent, a liquid in which the prima materia will dissolve, and apply to the resulting solution a certain secret fire. Keep it going in a sealed container at modest heat for 40 days, observing it closely as it goes through various changes, and increase the heat gradually as the changes proceed. It becomes black, then white, then passes through a series of iridescent colors, which I would then refer to the northern lights because that was the trigger of northern lights all around the world. And finally, I try my best. I'm just kidding. Finally turns ruby red, which is the development stage of right before gold. So now I can tell you, then it says take a tiny grain of the red substance, which is mercury, because we are going through it right now. Information on my channel is months ahead. So this is good to sustain until then. Take a tiny grain of the red substance, mercury, and put it into a crucible of hot mercury, and the mercury will instantly transform into gold. So, mercury is symbolically related to communication. Uh, some people are completely confused with that, but we are in the mercurial period right now. A few months ago, we've just gone through that. We've literally gone through a transformation or transmutation from lead into gold right now. So I want to tell you that this is literal transformation that's been happening. And so this transformation happens all the time. This transmutation, the changes in itself. If I look into the explaining of the details of it, it's quite profound actually. Um, where I mean, I'm not looking at the symbols itself, but I am looking at it says the right region. So a liquid in which the prima material will dissolve. So liquid is communication, it's water, and this is the age of all of these things that are developing right now. So then we've had this um, Northern Lights uh, phenomena around in the world as well. So typically, gold is also associated with the number 33. And of course, I know that number 33 is related to the Masonic Lodge. So I'm not talking about the Masons until we have invented another language to communicate in, to cut out all these other things. This is just how it's going to be. So I am going to bring it up. So if there are those that are upset or getting worried about the Masonic idea, I'm not talking about Masons. I'm talking about the process of gold, and I'm giving you the ideas and understanding of where we are going with this. So, like I said, uh, gold is the ideology or the period of growth. For us, the idea of gold means actualization and growth from where we were once in our existence to where we are currently right now. for them, the Ministry of Magic, the gold is gold. It's really gold. So, and the gold is the game, the game to the gold. This is why there's so much material on um, chess being all over. It's almost like everybody's playing chess suddenly because of that series that was on Netflix. Um, Now, that is essentially the process of gold on the tracing board. When you use the black and the white and all of that, you're going to get to the gold eventually. All right. Nonetheless, I'm not going to analyze that because I'm not an analyst of movies. There are some people that are doing that better than I can. So I am trying to explain to you that the idea of the golden age that you're trying to revamp it up. Okay, their side of the explanation. Okay, this is the timeline for that experiment of the golden cage. Like I said, it didn't just seem to get up to speed from nowhere. It literally started to pop up over time, and this is over the 100-year mark for them to start to bring that information in, that idea. So they've worked on it to try and bring it in to appear in itself. So you'll see it. And the question is, why am I bringing it up as gold? Why am I bringing it up in the first place? Because it's what's being presented in itself, and also because gold is symbolically a representation of truth, actual truth. So, this is the age, the highest accordance of information that is being delivered to you is what is inside of you. And I'll explain that shortly. So in alchemical traditionally, gold was represented by the ancients with the symbol in the image which I'm showing you right now, which also was designated as the sun. Okay, and this was to help people to understand that both are in their innermost essence one and the same, and not, because there are two parts of you, the spirit and the soul, which I can represent or suggest is visible in this image where you see the soul, the circle with the circumpunct in the middle, the dot in the middle. Um, it's a big deal for them. Okay, so your soul is important to them because your soul is essentially um, a source of energy that will feed them. So if they present enough narratives, your soul, which is your emotional part of your consciousness, will interact with it and feed it into your spirit so that your spirit will then accept it. That depends on where you place the control of importance in yourself for yourself. So, if you are focused on being whole, WHOLE, which I see they are now murdering as well, because it was once uh, different, uh, this means that you are in the position of um, seeing where the importance is inside of you. Being whole is the important factor. That is a representation of who you essentially are. You are not, like I said, the sum of your physical form. You have more than that. So, to explain in their terms, they're explaining that the soul is a circle with a circumpunct in the middle. I would say it's got more than just one line around it to describe you as a diagram. And essentially, I don't want to do that. But that is what they addressed back in the day. But their essence, in terms of explaining how this came about, and that those two things, the dot and the circle, were very important because it had a connection or presented as a type of gateway with in water and fire. So they used those as symbols for that. That was back in the day when the ancients explained that information. They've also explained that so this is why I'm telling you this for a reason. You'll see later on that you need to know that the value for the soul is like the value for gold. Okay, so there's a desire to continuously have control over someone's soul, which means there's the feeding of energy. Uh, all right. So wholeness essentially eradicates that separation from where you are in terms of what they project you to be. So, to explain the actual golden age or the actualization of the spirit is what it's about. We have to revisit the explanation of the darkening. So it begins with the darkening, as I've said, which is currently subsiding. And much like what is within the alchemy, there is no crystallization because there is none. There is no time and place and space to crystallize anything. There is a process that's literally going towards the next level, and it is happening fast. So when I say there is nothing to do, there is no crystallization happening, I'm explaining that there is no place for you to freeze up to be the focus on crystallization or the ideas of crystallization relates to people that are erroneously understanding that they are crystal like inside, which is very dangerous because you then freeze yourself into a crystal like crystal. So that is not related to the actual understanding of how it should be understood. In alchemy, like I said, there is no crystallization taking place. The method is happening rapidly, and it is going through water and fire, which you are currently going through internally. So when you go through water and fire, I'm saying that you are going through a process of understanding Piscean age, where you come from, who you were, talking about it, and fire, and actually activating your thoughts, knowing that you actually don't need to really be concerned about whether you were a king or a prince or a knight or a queen back in the day, because that is literally part of the material materia, the prima materia that is dissolving. And you are in the presence of knowing that you are with mind, body, soul, and spirit as a whole being. And therefore, you are in a loving space and you are in continuous electromagnetic frequency. I'm not saying you don't have a name, I'm saying this is within you. And this is why it's important to understand that process. So we can also refer to this actualization of the spirit as what is also mentioned here called pneumatology, which I will quote. It comes from two Greek words, pneuma, which is spirit, and logos, teaching about. So pneumatology means or is also included in the study of the person of the Holy Spirit or Spirit and the works of the Holy Spirit. End quote. I'm not perpetuating and saying the information about the Holy Spirit about. I'm not bringing it into my work because metaphysics is not about religion. Okay, so the word Holy Spirit is related in itself as an idea religious. But I do acknowledge that we are aware within our spirit and we are being connected with a much more powerful, original, creative force which has existed long before man made gods had existed and still is existing. And you are able to feel the presence once you are able to tap into the wholeness within inside of you, the love, and your immediate environment starts to change. So, on celebration or celebrating, which I would like to say, I'm celebrating the masculine and the feminine principles within you and that which is visible around you. So, in other words, understanding that masculine and feminine as a physicality, male and female, uh, are essentially meant to exist as it's forming part of a unity that is also part of nature. So that is a natural order that is existing. Okay, you don't see uh, what's happening now or what they're trying to propagate now. That's basically falling apart now because people are not um, that dumb. People are aware of the process. So we will call a man and a woman, and that is how it is on this channel, and I will keep it so. So you can also not equalize the two poles with one another. You can't make plus and minus the same. Masculine and feminine energies are not the same. They are not equal. They are unique in them individual selves, but they are not equal. They are in balance or in unity with one another, but not equal. Okay, and always remember that because you need to have individual uniqueness of both sides. Okay, and that is why creation works. All right, the same principle of masculine and feminine is within any and every person that exists in this world, in this realm. And that means that you have a masculine part inside of you and a feminine part inside of you, which is related to the poles of creation, which is electric and magnetic. And these energies converge inside of the center point of your heart, of where you are, your heart of understanding into the center, being in the middle. Okay. Um, and that is the simplicity of it. Your brain operates in two parts too, or two major parts rather. So it's the same thing. One part of your brain is not the same as the other part of your brain. You may have one part that's more developed in the other part. So that's just how you need to think about this now. So unity is based on this on the sacred wisdom internally, which allows the connection between masculine and feminine to connect for creative purposes. So in other words, the intention is the inspiration to try and ride your bicycle. And you've never ridden it before. Now you keep thinking about it, you start visualizing about it, you're having visions, and you start to dream about riding a bicycle. That's feminine. Okay? And then the masculine part goes, hey, let's just go ride the bicycle and let's see if we can do this. So you go, masculine, and you climb onto the bicycle, masculine, and you start pedaling the bicycle, masculine. And in your mind, you start to remember, oh, wow, this was like what I dreamt. So, feminine. And these two connect with one another, and eventually you are then presented with an intention that had a masculine property and a feminine property already in it. The riding of the bicycle was the birthing or the child or the seed of those two things that came together. Okay. So, in this, and in another example, in terms of creation, the masculine property and the feminine property will connect in the same way. You will have intention. You will reason about it. You will do research on it. You'll start to implement things in it. You'll start to do one thing every day to improve your life for yourself. Literally, even if it means you taking the dustbin out or you're throwing some old rubbish away. Everyone has old junk. Getting rid of old junk, and that is literally the next step to self love. And there it is. There is creation in self love. So I've given you two examples. One is about intentions and towards action, and the other is in terms of creation, which is related to intentions as well. And by keep doing that, you keep connecting more and more of the parts inside of you. And eventually you are then becoming a whole being because you're starting to feel it feels good to actually do something good for myself. And that is what self love means. So, this is why I'm saying the more people have been doing this, they've been changing the frequencies in and around themselves and in this realm. And this is a very powerful announcement to you that your self love has started to change the frequency because you're going into an actualization now. It's not ascension. There is no word of ascension on my channel because ascension is fake. The word ascension means if I tell you something, you are ascending into awareness to knowing, oh, okay, I'm getting what you're saying. There, I've ascended now because that's what it means. So whoever thought it up to say that you ascend and you're going to leave your clothes behind and all of that stuff, I think in Afrikaans you call it wegrapen, raptured. It's dangerous, okay, because it's never going to happen. All right, it's very dangerous to do that to any person and every person because there are some people that actually believe that and they've drunk too much Kool-Aid and so forth. Okay, so we have to come back to the current moment of understanding that we are now finally in our process of actualization in terms of where we are in who we are. So the actual process of the original golden age is about actuality. All right. So the meaning of what it actually means is, as I've explained to you, about actualization in your spirit, meaning you've come to the realization and you are not being led around or misled anymore. You're able to reason and understand the factors that are involved in your life. You are working towards self improvement. So now, the authentic actualization of the golden age is what I would like to present to you now, is in essence a change in the frequency in which actuality takes root as a process. So you will have this for the rest of your life. Actuality means to be actualized in the self. Like I've just explained, the mind, body, soul, and spirit in unity with itself as an actual being that exists and then will shed the skin once the body is done with this world and will progress towards the next path of where you need to go. And I've explained about what happens to you when you pass away. You are able to make a decision. Do you go straight back to the original creative force, or do you have the choice to decide that you want to live again? Okay, you will need to make the decision. Although I can tell you that uh, those that come back are off they come back too soon. Okay, so what you do with where you are, and you are able then to leave actually and not come back. This is why the information is so very important, because you need to have it right in here before you're able to do and experience anything else outside of you. So actuality is the actualization of the self, which means you are an actual being. You exist. That is who you are, not your identity, not some label or where you come from. Who and what you are in essence, it goes hand in hand with the information on the philosophy. It's in the channel. Look for the videos. There's lots of videos related to the words the philosophy. Find it. Okay, but as I said, start from beyond Thunderdome and work your way all the way through to where you are now, and you will not go wrong. You will find the thread of information that is very, very clear. So the philosophy is about knowing how much, or how each and every part of you operates within itself as a metaphysical nature, and to overcome the belief in duality. Remember, I said duality is a mirror and nothing but an inverted image, referenced to all of the material from deep stuff, as I've said, beyond Thunderdome up till now. Please study it, work through it, ask me questions about it. A being is either a male or female in physicality, but eternal internally when there is awareness of the workings of the mind, body, soul, and spirit in unity, in balance. In other words, how you think, how you feel. Like I've just explained to you what you do. You're getting rid of your rubbish or your junk every day. You're getting rid of the stuff and you're starting to feel better and better, and you're starting to feel happier, and you're starting to feel less depressed. So that's part of it. That is it. That's actually it. Okay. Now, imagine if you were aware of what you can actually do in your spirit, of how strong the energy inside of you can flow. When you're able to touch base on, let's call it chi energy or electromagnetic energy inside of you, how you're able to change from feeling what you feel inside of you to that which is around you, alter your entire immediate reality. In other words, change your furniture, and you're then able to have a better life, and so forth, and so forth, and so forth. What about those idiots that have continuously hammered people who are living a happy life, and even as humble as it's possibly to be? I would say that those are the people that are afraid of loving themselves. So they are the ones that are, I would put part into the uh, ones that are perpetuating this whole chosen one thing, because they put themselves in there as well. The Gnostics have pushed that ideology as well. So there's a very strong drive, as I've said, to alter the frequency of what is feminine and what is masculine, and they're making it, because they can't tell you anymore, they make it dark. They literally paint the face dark, or whatever it is. So um, that's part of that. As I've said, a being is either a male or female in physicality, but eternal internally when there is awareness of the workings of the mind, body, soul, and spirit in unity. In other words, you understand the metaphysics of your entirety. We can never understand the fullness ever. This is why you are existing in this time period, because you are teaching yourself to learn to understand who you are finally to that point. I'm not talking about those that are doing this, that have been doing this in their life purpose. I'm saying people that are just starting to understand who they are. So I'm trying to cover as much area as I am possibly able to do. As I said, the video will be lengthy, so I do apologize. Listen to this in chapters, like I always say. These are the abilities that you will start to nurture inside of you. You will understand what your under your awarenesses of your psyche. You will understand how your psychic abilities work, and everyone has a psychic ability within themselves. These things come to the front. You start to have very much more powerful dreams as well, and you start to become aware of these things. More and more of this develops as you diarize your life path. Okay, so you are able. There's no time to it. It is as long as it takes or as short as it happens for you. If you're ready for it, it's already happening for you, and therefore I don't need to tell you about it or convince you about it. You already know how it is done. It's only and always through love. Uh, this is the creation in essence, which means it requires the masculine and the feminine sides of what is within you to connect and bring certain ideas and things to the foreground. In other words, use your imagination. It becomes stronger. You are able to change how you exist within yourself. Now, let me say this. Yes, I understand that the realm is in the condition that it is because of certain dynamics that have been playing itself out. If you don't understand what I'm saying right now, then I would ask you to please go to the Beyond Thunderdome video and start there, and you'll understand the progress. This is why the videos are structured in the way that they are, for you to understand an actual process where you begin to where you are now. Okay, and you could consider the actualization of the spirit as the age of uh, graduation in terms of knowing where you are, who you are, that you've come to that point now. And this is why they are getting scared, because they are now pushing their fake golden cage ideology, narrative, and why this is the essential, you could call it a golden age for the progress of soul and spirit and mind and body and everything else in it as a whole being. Okay. So remember from the previous material, as I said, creation in the self hand goes hand in hand with love, with regards to self creation. This does not mean that you are worshiping yourself as a potential demigod or goddess or whatever you want to call yourself. This is about uh, taking yourself in accountability to everything that you've done in your life and where you are going with what you've been able to do. The healing process, in other words, you've gone through the process, and the majority of people in this realm have reached this level. So if you feel you may not have reached this level, there is no thing or a mirror that can show you, yeah, you've actually done this, and I'm going to tell you, yeah, there's your gift now, there's your treasure. You've just acquired it now because of how good you were. It's got nothing to do with that. You need to know if you are there or not. Only you can tell that of yourself. I cannot tell you. No one can tell you. No guru can tell you, yeah, you're going to graduate now because you've reached this level. That's not, that is false. Okay, so be mindful that you use discernment when you go and explore certain materials and research it. Okay, so the understanding of knowing who you are changes and alters your immediate environment that is within you with the environment around you, and your dynamics change that which is further out from you. So you then change how you are towards people, you change how you are towards yourself, and that is how you are able to alter your perception with regards to your reality. Your reality is based on where you are in yourself. Okay, so it becomes dynamic to you. You become a dynamo, dynamic to your changes inside of you. This unity, as I said, is a whole energy. It is a circuit that is completed. All right. And is it is easily pervaded or avoided. People don't really venture there because they're afraid, because then there's nothing else to go for, to live for. So I'm talking about, like I said, I've shown you the map of the realm. I've shown you how the jail looks. I've told you this is what you can do, how you can get through it, and this is ultimately your key to be able to then do what you need to do, how you do it when you do eventually decide to pass out of this realm. Okay, so mind control cults, in other words, and I'm bringing this up in the next mark, relates to magical rituals, people that are dabbling in the dead arts, in other words, necromancy, people that worship spirits of the dead, sadly. And if you don't understand this, go into the video where I talk about the Solomon's ring, the ring of power, which is based on dead people who are given agencies to function under when they have passed away. So make sure, this is why when I tell you about the philosophy, I'm telling you this is how you can empower yourself so you are unable to be captured in any shape, form, place, or time, or by anyone. Okay. So, or anything. These people that dabble in these things, they create pockets of corrupted particles, or you could call it portals or whatever, not only in the ether, but also they become encapsulated by their own stuff. They now become captured by it. This is what I would interpret as karma, and this is why it's happening. There's a lot of that coming up to the surface. A lot of people are unable to deal with that. They are going through quite a lot of strife. I can actually see that that is basically how you then become, because you sacrificed your soul, which is that one thing that reminds you of consciousness and conscience, that you know which is left or right, or yes or no, or yes and no, however you want to look at it, or that is not going to be a nice thing if I do this with the X, Y, and Z, and yet I don't have to worry about it because I've just sacrificed my soul to Lord Baal, or whatever you want to call that thing, as an example. And so I don't have to have any worries here anymore. No judgment in my mind. I can just carry on doing that. These guys are turning into living corpses. Okay, telling you straight out, this is what's happening, because while the majority of people are developing, their spirit changes, the frequency around them, the realm is altered, the frequency of the realm is being um, fragmented, which means those that have been worshipping those things in the material realm are fragmenting as well. And what are you without your soul? You were just a zombie. So when they were saying the zombie apocalypse, I think they were actually not aware that this was actually going to happen in that way, because it only happens when there's no soul presence. Your spirit can function your physical form, but if your spirit is under some other agency that's controlling that spirit, such as, for example, um, necromancy, or whatever you want to call it, or calling up to give you the riches or to make you rich in this world, um, you're stuffed. You're screwed, because the other part of the actualization is is altering the frequency, and you are being trapped in your own uh, you're trapped inside a rock. You're stuck there, and you put yourself there. It's got nothing to do with the information, that it's got nothing to do with me or anybody else. You've done it to yourself. You are facing your own karmic dilemma. Okay, and that is something that you have to go through, whoever they are, or I'm just as an example. Okay, in general speaking. So magical practitioners and magical practices are literally doing this always for material gain. Most of the time, it's always about the money or selling the soul for a certain thing to happen. They are starting to experience the corruption of their own system, their own soul, their soulless presence. Um, and this is why karma is acting so harshly, because this is what's happening, right? So, not because of what I've just said, it is happening because it is the progression of time and the events that have happened around that. Okay, so those people are facing their own stuff now. So we need to understand that the principles of what I'm explaining to you is related very strongly to knowing the actualization process. So many of you who are now able to understand what it means are now able to see what I'm telling you about and why it's happening the way it's happening. This is why certain things that you would think would normally have happened uh, are not happening, or you were afraid that certain things were going to happen, that they're not happening anymore. Because it just tells you how many of those have been involved in trying to alter certain things in your life, to try and alter the progression for human development in the spirit and in the psyche and in love. So I will leave that case right there. So now it looks like there are more people that have become aware of this than ever before. This is why the actualization of the spirit, or the actualization process, the actualization of the spirit is uh, creating a change in the frequency, which is the actual golden age. And I'm calling it that as a marker in time. So today, on the 1st of June, when I'm making this video, is the announcement of the actualization of the spirit in the golden age of development, not the fake golden age that they've been throwing every 100 years. Okay, so you now know the difference. People that are exploring the information on the philosophy, that is, as best as I've said before, the information that can help you to help yourself for yourself. I'm not doing it to, I'll show you. I'm not doing that at all. I'm telling you that information, understand it, understand who you are. It works with this, but it is an internal process. You explore that, you can't cheat it. Okay, once you've become aware of it, you cannot cheat it. You can't hook into another person's energy like it often happens, and live off of their essence vicariously anymore. It is not happening anymore. Whenever you try to attach to another person's essence, that goes straight back to you, and you are put straight back into that little pocket of corrupted energy that you've created, that you were trying to create for that person. It's now around you. Okay, so that is a fact. Whatever is discussed in this channel is set in place for it to be so. All right. So the actualized golden age, or metamorphosis, or change, or actualization of the spirit, is the change that has been altering the realm in a very profound way. And you are starting to notice that. And it is very visible, because you're also experiencing people's electromagnetic fields much stronger. So you can feel the electrical energy in the field from one another, from right across the other world. Okay? So this is why it was so important to explain to you and to understand the material of all of the videos that I've made about the philosophy. And I'll say that again, please make study of it, ask me about it. Please don't pirate it. Give credit where it's due, please, because I've posted the material out there for a reason, not to be used to be pirated, because people do that as well. And they may be experiencing their own corrupted cages as well. Nothing to do with me. So now you understand how that works. You understand the actualization of the spirit. You understand how to heal yourself. You would need to work through the information of the philosophy to understand the crux of it. Um, and you now know the difference between the fake one, the fake golden cage, and the actualized of a spirit or actualization of the spirit inside of you, which is the actual golden age. So now you understand the connection between masculine and feminine within the self, how it operates within the heart. The heart is the place in which the heart of understanding, which is within, and so as above, so below. Within you, what you think and what you experience, and as you express it around you. Then, when you express what it is that you feel, it is as within, so and so without. That is how it works. Not as above, so below. It's not how it works. They operate in that way. So, I would like now to bring to you the explanation of the Hermetic order of the Golden Dawn and why it's important to bring them up and why they are relevant to the fake golden cage. I'm not going to go through the entire thing because it is very lengthy and it's just a replication of the Kabbalah system all the time. So I will only bring out certain things that I felt was relevant to explain. So the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn wanted to herald some kind of cosmic Jesus, which is what they've always been trying to do. Like I said, it was Horus, and then it was Osiris, and then it was Isis, and then it's this, and then it's that. And it's always the same thing. It is the same thing. There is no change, there's no difference. It is always the same thing, and they are always proclaiming this with the help of that which is spirits outside of themselves. Never is anything done on the internal. And they are linked to a Judeo-Hebrew and Egyptian flair to it. If you want to understand the dynamics of how the Judeo information, the contents of the Leviathan and all of that has come about, please go to the book review that I've done about the Messianic Metatron, and you will understand that part of the material can add to this part of the material because the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn is the origin for that. Okay, so you're seeing this now. And they are the ones that are perpetuating this whole golden cage, cosmic Jesus, who has to go up on the Sephiroth and then drop down, and then ultimately you can stand on it, and then it's a snake, and then it turns into this, and then it turns into that. I kid you not. I will show you the images. You will see what I mean. That's how it works. Okay, how they work. So, in my opinion, and also deeply invested time to shape the Sephiroth tree from the Kabbalah into a Rosicrucian order as well, which has splintered off eventually, but they were part of it, amongst other organizations. From the last works that I've presented on the Kabbalah, the Sephiroth tree is the actual trellis that hooks into the field dynamics of the torus and the trapezoid. Please go to Beyond Thunderdome. Okay, so who and what is the Golden Dawn? In order to explain the Golden Dawn for you, we have to take some notes and some snippets from the Opus Mago Kabbalisticum et Theosophicum by George von Welling. Some excerpts on why Kabbalah relates to why they focus on gold as well and why they are pushing for a golden cage age. Based on this diagram that I'm showing you right now, this is the diagram that is important to take note on how the ritualistic sigils have been added and how the trapezoids are in there all the time. Okay, so I'm not going to go and discuss the whole Beyond Thunderdome again about the trapezoid, so please go there, okay? I'm assuming that when you come to this video, you understand what's happened in Beyond Thunderdome. If you do not understand this video, go to Beyond Thunderdome, listen to it, understand it in the videos thereafter, and you'll understand this information. And just because it is information that is timed or timely or old, however you want to put it, does not mean that it is not relevant. It means it is relevant all the time. Information on this channel is timeless, okay? Because it comes from an internal place where the information has been put into, okay? So, right. And no, I do not channel spirits and things. I do not worship spirits and things. I am only connected to the wholeness of what is within me, and I am connected to connecting with, making it a point to connect with the original creative force every moment of my existence. That's me. Okay, that's who I am. That's what I do. Okay, so now that you understand that part of me, that should tell you that is what I invest time in. Okay, personal for me to do that. That's why the information comes to me to share with you. All right, I don't suck them from somewhere. All right, I don't copy things from people. All right, the Kabbalah portrays the macrocosm, and in let me just say quote first. Quote, Kabbalah portrays the macrocosm and the microcosm as an order. In other words, duality. And this order is surrounded by something called Shama Jin. Okay, Shama Jin. They believe the microcosm of individual human existence within the Kabbalah exists within each human being as an essence of gold. Alpha Minha Dhamma, in brackets, and that this is an indestructible, immortal body. So, in other words, they consider the information about being connected to the Kabbalistic tree as what could give them immortality, and that immortality is gold to them. Now, I've explained before that gold from all over the world is very important to people that follow this specific order. Between the lines, the gold from various countries that have been harvested from them, taken from them, or given away to them have been given to these people that are in control of these orders. All right. So they are the ones that are harvesting that in that way. Okay. If you don't believe this, do your own research. You'll figure it out. So now I'm going to break down the fake doctrines of the fake golden cage for you, basically leading to the crackdown of the Order of the Golden Dawn. And yes, it's still been going on strong, even though it's been said that it's not there anymore. Even though they say it's dissolved, it's just been given another name. All right. And this means that we are peeling away layers of things that are attached to holding up or holding the trapezoid in place, which is a diamond shape inside of the field of the field of the torus. Okay, the electromagnetic field of the torus. Go to the Beyond Thunderdome. All right, I won't be bringing it up. So this means that we are peeling away the layers. As I've said, this particular reveal is quite a heavy one because I could feel there was a lot of resistance on an energetic level for me to even approach this. There's a lot of spells put into place to try and stop people from questioning it. People actually go mad if they are in their doctrines. They try to be spies in there. There was a guy that actually went mad and he was put into a mental institute because he couldn't handle this stuff. It's in the book that I've done the work from. So the book I'll explain to you now. All right. So this is a part of a karmic shattering of the same thing. Like I've just explained to you, they can use any words they want. They can talk about love and light, and they can say this and they can say that, and they can have gurus sit there and sit all piously drugged up with whatever. And if anything is meant to be understood and it's outside of you, you know that it is wrong because it is there to distract you from yourself. It is the flaw. It is the fail of that frequency of those that are presenting this order and the way that it's done, along with any and all the other ones in the process. So this is why I'm saying the information that we're bringing up on this channel, it is literally going to crack it down, literally going to peel the layers away, and the information will be presented to you in a much more clear way so that you understand. And by that time, you'll come to the realization of why I brought this up in the first place. So the Golden Dawn is one of the most important keys of value, which they secretly just keep it quiet. They don't talk about the Golden Dawn ever, but there's a website that's very active, and yet nothing's being posted on it, so it is alive. Okay, so I've got a few references here that I've added as well. So when this key is actually broken, there's no. I mean, we've already broken the ring. Then we broke the doors, which are related to the trapezoids, and now we've got the key. The guys that are the key makers, we're breaking that down as well. So take note. There's references at the bottom. I will quote them from where I've gotten the information from, and I will take only certain excerpts. If you really want to know more about them, there is a site called hermeticgoldendawn.org. You can check Wikipedia out. They seem to have a lot of information there, which they've gotten from books. And then there's that, and then there's this book, which I will present to you now. So the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn in Latin means Ordo Hermeticus Aurorae Aurorae, more commonly the Golden Dawn Aurora Aurorae. Okay, and this doesn't mean that I'm involved in it. Okay, really, you should think. Too many things are using that name. It was a sacred society devoted to the study and practice of occult hermeticism, science, arts, and technology, lumping it all under their banner of metaphysics, which they are the ones that are trying to shut down, or have been trying to shut down people that have been writing information on metaphysics, like Aristotle. They've been trying to rewrite them out of existence. Okay, during the late 19th century and 20th century. There's a quote from the website hermeticgoldendawn.org, which writes, quote, "It includes physicians, psychologists, clergymen, artists, and philosophers, and normal men and women, probably with a lot of money, humble and unknown, from every walk of life," end quote. And no, the association, like I said, is not me. So please don't be daft. All right. As far as I'm aware, the Golden Dawn is still active, like I said. Obviously operating under a different names now, or banks, or whatever you want to call it. The Romans have done the same thing. They've taken things from Greeks, and that they've polished it up with different names because they also wanted it. So there's a lot of copycats always active, so you can sort of you can see the difference between where they come from and how it works. Anyway, so the philosophy is to teach people, like a school, a grade system and magical rituals on how to become perfected in themselves. So, but in their words, they write that the Golden Dawn, quote, "The Golden Dawn correlates to certain spiritual ideas and cosmic principles." Okay, so in space, it's always okay. You can fart in space and no one will smell it. That's basically how bad that is. Okay, space, the space between time and ether. That's actually what space means, not cosmos. All right, that's fake for what it actually is. I know people are trying to explain it that way, but call it time and space in ether, because that's what it's actually about. All right. I like to call it the right thing. Okay, so they use a lot of philosophy from yeah. So the main philosophy behind the grade system is Kabbalah, a Hebrew mystical system that describes all of creation and encompasses knowledge of the universe's fundamental essence, composition, and evolution, end quote. Okay. All right. So it's heavily related to the Egyptian Pseudo-Hebrew mixtures, which is what I'm adding here, of archetypes and egregores alike, and neatly ties into the pluralistic concept like I've been explaining all along. Okay. And you'll see that they use a lot of gods and goddesses and spirits to do certain things for them. Serious witchcraft. Serious stuff. Very much like Solomon's lesser keys. So the grades of the Golden Dawn, and quote from their website, correspond to the Sephiroth on the Kabbalistic tree of life, but also have elemental and planetary attributes. They are further divided into three separate groups known as the first or outer order, the second or inner order, and the third or invisible order, which is not attained by living initiates but rather by inner plane contacts. End quote. Then the next one. The first order, quote, is the Hermetic order of the Golden Dawn, which is separate and distinct entity from that of the second or inner order known as the R and the RETAC, or the Order Rosa Robea et Rosicrucian, Order of the Red Cross. Okay? It is related to the morning star, since that is how the creation was altered by placing fake stars like lone scum's satellite trains to mesmerize people around the same age to create the same type of thing in these works. The signs and wonders are here to be. This is why the scum pumped the sky full of satellites. I don't want to say his name. I'll put his picture up to create millions of morning stars because that's what he wanted to present. Okay. So the timeline with which Scum has inserted the satellite in the skies is indicative of the timeline that they are associating from the lead to golden age. They're launching the satellites is their golden age announcement, all right? Because members of the alchemical formula suggest that red Mars, in his case, because he's the one whose name is in a book written by Werner von Braun as Elon from Mars. Okay.
Clearly, the Mars project is a deliberate disassociation from the actual red material that is in alchemy, actually known as Mercury. The red material is confused with Mars as opposed to Mercury, the way that it should be done. So you're looking at an artificial creation of a fake golden cage.
Had to act in a certain way to insert certain ideologies and narratives for people to believe in. So that is the purpose of why he had to shoot the sky full of stars. It's a very Egyptian thing on creation, Nut, and the creation of the stars. All right? It is a, I don't know how to explain it. It is yeah, let's just call it what it is, okay? It's a sexual thing, okay? So from the wiki site, the information of of the Golden Dawn heralded as the Stella Matutina or the Morning Star was an initiatory magical order dedicated to the dissemination of the traditional occult teachings of the earlier Hermetic order of the Golden Dawn, originally the outer order of the Stella Matutina was known as the Mystic Rose or Order of the Mystic Rose in the Outer, end quote. Known as the Magical Order, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn was active in Great Britain and focused its practices on theurgy and spiritual development. Theurgy, Google it, is the connection with those that are dead in the spirit. All right. So many present day concepts of rituals and magic that are now flooding systems such as Wicca and Thelema are all inspired by the Golden Dawn in some way, shape, or form, and it's all contributed to the 20th century, in their words, of of Western occultism. So three founders named William Robert Woodman, William Wynne Westcott, and Samuel Little Mathers were Freemasons and members of the Societas Rosicruciana in Anglia. Westcott appears to have been the initiate or initial driving force behind the establishment of the Golden Dawn. End quote. Another snippet: the Golden Dawn. Those three men. The Golden Dawn was the first of the three orders. I think they created an order for each one of them. although all three are often collectively referred to as the Golden Dawn from their website. The first order taught esoteric philosophy based on Hermetic Kabbalah and the personal development through study and awareness of the four classical elements, as well as the basics of astrology, tarot divination, and geomancy, which is necromancy on the earth. All right. The second or inner order, the Rosa Rubia et Aurea Crucis, taught magic, including scrying, astral travel, and alchemy. And the third one taught highly skilled, only for certain people, uh, how to communicate with certain things and do certain things in certain orders. The first order included the grades of neophytes, zelator, theoreticus. The second order is also a grade of Adeptus Minor, Adeptus Major, Adeptus Exemptus, and then another one, the non-physical one, supposedly is comprised of Magister Templi, Magus, and Illuminatus. Okay, so that is also there. So that term is also coming from them. Okay, so there is a quote. As the Hierophant tells the neophyte, remember that God alone is our light and the bestower of perfect wisdom, and that no mortal power can do more than bring you to the pathway of that wisdom. End quote. That is relevant to placing the connection of the original, of the higher self outside of you. All right. So the higher self is associated with something that is outside of you. It's not understood that it is in within you. It's like putting your brain there on the table and saying, okay, worship your brain because it's there on the table. Putting your higher self there and then turning it into a god. That is the path. Okay, so that is the problem. That is the main problem, and that is why there's such a drive to this whole pluralistic ideology in terms of gods and goddesses and chosen ones, and they're trying to push for that agenda. So understand that it means the higher self is worshipped outside of the self. All right, that is the one thing that is keeping you away from yourself and not letting you find out who you truly are. All right. So yeah. Then there's also the builders of Adytum, which I've mentioned before in the Beyond Thunderdome, where I spoke about them as being the builders of the actual framework of the trapezoid. The trapezoid itself, the diamond shape. The builders of the Adytum is also in the perspective and the order of the trapezoid. There is a lot of focus on the cube, and also that the Golden Dawn is associated with the initials G and D, not like it's always being made to understand as God. It's G and D, but that is why they did that on purpose, so that you are unable to know that it's the Golden Dawn all along. Okay, there's a lot of energy that is attached to the Golden Dawn, more than you can ever imagine it to be, because right now, as I'm busy telling you about it, I can feel that there's a lot of upset folks that are not liking this information. So everyone's going to be triggered with regards to the Golden Dawn if you've been practicing worshipping the higher self outside of yourself. All right. It is incorrect. It's why it triggers you so much. So if you don't know about the trapezoid, then please, like I said, go to the Beyond Thunderdome. The trapezoid equals builders of Adytum. There's a link to Wikipedia that describes them. Builders of the Adytum, school of the Western mystery tradition based on in Los Angeles, registered as a non-profit, tax-exempt religious organization. I mean, then you can get away with murder, right? Okay, it was founded by Paul Foster Case and has its roots in both the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn and the Masonic Blue Lodge system, the one first lodge of all lodges. Okay, it is in Wikipedia. So Adytum means inner shrine or holy of holies, and builders refer to the in emulation of the carpenter from Nazareth, because it's easy just to do that, right? I mean, a rolling stone. Okay, so The order was found in 1922. Paul Foster Case was a senior member of Hermes, Thoth Alpha et Omega Temple. I mean, just take all the words, just put them all together. It's like having their own Barbie doll camp. And just take all the names, put them all in there, and say, God, I actually don't know which one is the best one, so I'm going to put all of them in there. Builders of Adytum believes that the Kabbalah is the mystical root of both ancient Judaism and the original Christianity. Is it though? I'm just leaving it there. People of all faiths are accepted if they are mystically inclined. All right. Members of the Builders of Adytum, that means BOTA, means whereby higher consciousness and divine illumination may be gained, include by both theory and practice. That means these teachings and practical secrets constitute what the Builders of the Adytum refer to as ageless wisdom. That comes from Helena Petrovna Blavatsky. It is not coming from them. They have just copied information from one another all over the place. That's how it works. That's the only thing that keeps them together is their copying of one another's stuff. That makes it look like things are going forever and that they've always been able to know this information. So keep that in mind, okay? It's a copy of a copy of a copycat. Sickness. It is a sickness. So it is written by, and that so they say that the ageless wisdom is written by God upon the face of nature, which comes out of the Bible, where it was explained in a different reference. Okay, so do you see what I'm saying? How the information is taken and Hegelian dialectics are created from it, creating false dichotomies to understand and to believe in. It sounds mystical and powerful, so therefore it must be fine to accept it so, because they're all idiots and I just need all their money to give to fuel my cult, right? That's how it works. So, in my opinion, if they believe they are unaffected by mutations of time, because they say it here, they say ageless wisdom is unaffected by mutations of time, then it means that they are actually focused on trying to keep the information going in a particular way so they will never change. Okay? So always remember that rituals and orders that are structured in a particular way for a particular structure or organization, the first things you need to look at is look at the information that they present, and if the information is presented to worship that or do things outside of the higher self. If the higher self is placed outside, you know you have a problem. Okay? It's a big problem. Right. So in 1888, from Wiki, quote, Urania Temple was founded in London, in contrast to the SRIA, which means Society Rosicrucian in Anglia. That's what it means, SRIA. So now it's given that name as well. It's now a society. So now, what is it then? I mean, it's just changing names because it sounds more professional, right? So that's the second thing you'll notice is the name changes, the labels, the name changes are all the time the same. Change. The order was more of a philosophical and metaphysical teaching order in its early years. But now I'm giving you a little bit of background of the whole thing so that you understand that even though they're proclaiming that they are trying to focus on higher self and the light and God and all of those things, it's all done with magical rituals. And it's all done on the premise of worshipping something outside of themselves. In other words, also sacrificing themselves for the purpose of something that they consider or believe in to be bigger than them, okay, or better than them. All right. So that's basically what all of these societies are all about. And then there's a lot of politics in between, and I'm not going to bore you with all of that. But they are all part of the same thing. They're all Masons. They're all previously Christians that have broken away from churches or whatever. And they're all focusing on these things. And they are all harvesting from one another their income, their bank accounts, their livelihoods, their spirits, their souls. All of these things are always put into one thing, and it's all given particular to purpose so that people can understand. But their biggest focuses have always been on people that are much more spiritual, because somewhere along the line, I can tell you right now, they were becoming aware that people with spiritual abilities could be assets to their industry, which then later on, as you know, have also it's still happening. Okay, so the bigger the organization, the more control they believe they have over, not over pockets, but also over mind, body, soul, and spirit as possession in itself. The papal industry is doing the same thing with people as well. So it is all the same in one big pot, which we are busy turning over. All right. So now, the one thing I wanted us to focus on very importantly is the way that they believe, because there's a section in this book that I've taken the notes from, and I think it's very interesting. Is the focus on solar monotheism, which means the sun is the god or the thing that is the perfect thing, and they've given a few things from their website which I've corrected, and I will give it to you now, and then I will explain to you that one chapter. It's a short one, but it's a very condensed one, and then I will come to the conclusion of the video. Okay, so on their website, they write here much of the knowledge concerning ancient Egypt is based on complex rituals related to death and the afterlife. Since Egyptian civilizations was a product in many ways of the natural forces that surrounded it, the people looked to nature to explain the unexplainable. Actually, no. People looked into themselves first before they were told to believe in things outside of themselves to see what's going on. That is actually what it was about. Because people who were focused on what was inside of themselves gave the drawings, the cave drawings, and those things that they have created, the artifacts, as mystical, as fantastical. And those are the things that have come from inside, not from outside. Okay, so that is a projection of what they wish to let you know, that that is how it should be, you know, inverted commas. So they're right here. A solar monotheism, one God as the creator of the universe who manifested his power in the sun and its operations. And this is on their website. And it is flawed, okay, because one God means monotheism for them, which is allocated to something that is solar, which is masculine, which means there's no place to allow the spirit, which is feminine, or the soul, which is feminine, to be part of it. So, monotheistic male God, patriarchal element over male and female people, okay, male and female, men and women are subjected under that belief system. Okay, the original creative force is not only masculine; it is masculine and it is feminine. It is masculine and feminine principles, or there would be no creation. Think about it logically. All right. The second thing is there's a belief in the regenerative power of nature, which expressed itself in the adoration of Ithaphallic gods, fertile goddesses, and a series of animal and vegetable deities. That's their proclamation. I say it's flawed because why is a god needed to present anything related to the realm in which you live? Uh, then it means that everything in the material realm is worshipped as fatalistically flawed, because it has a sexual connotation to it, because the existence of the creative force is not only in that dynamic. It is far reaching. It is much more. It is more than just gods and goddesses in trinkets. Okay, so again, another statement that they make is a perception of anthropomorphic divinity. They believe God to them is an anthropomorphic uh, divine entity or element. I'm saying anthropomorphize anything that is related to something that sounds fantastic is called divinity, okay, to them. when it means that the very same thing as in the previous sentence, making God of a door something to worship. Okay, so allocating something that is physical to something that does not require a physical form to let you know that it exists. Okay, so that is what that means. And this is why I'm saying that where they're explaining that, I need you to understand that the anthropomorphizing of the understanding of the original creative force has always happened from within before they made the little icons and things, unlike how they've just described in their work. Okay, so this is how you need to understand about wisdom that is missing, and intelligence that's being used to manipulate certain ideologies for money, for pockets to be filled, for coffers to control communities, etc., etc. Certain people. Okay, always that, always that. Then coming to this point where we're explaining 1890s, the Golden Dawn was suddenly established in Great Britain, blah blah blah. Many celebrities belong to the Golden Dawn, like we didn't know that. You can see all the names in the 1890s, and then they stopped. Aleister Crowley was one of them, of course, and he was everywhere. So then eventually there was some kind of revolt that dismantled the entire group, and then they all splintered apart, and they all created their own little followings of their own orders, and then so forth and so forth. So cited from the Oxford Academic, there's a reference there. Uh, quote, when Westcott, who was himself a Freemason, asked the colleague Samuel Little MacGregor Mathers to expand the material to form a more complete occult system. Mathers worked on the formation of a new body of rituals and chose as his basis the Kabbalistic tree of life, using its 10 Sephiroth or levels of consciousness, according to them, as the basis of different ceremonial grades. Westcott, Mathers, and another occultist, William Woodman, appointed themselves the heads of the Second Order of the Golden Dawn. And believe me, these guys who are dead now are still actively pushing that frequency into the system, because that's all they've got to do. There's nothing else that they can do. And if people are not focused on that anymore, they can't be attached to the system anymore. So that's part of the problem. Let me put it that way. Yeah, so big cheeses, three big cheeses controlling that thing. Uh, Something else interesting I thought it would be interesting to share with you is there's a Golden Dawn that was in Greece, an extreme right wing party, and their main platform um, points were about national currency, the drachma, increased efforts to improve agriculture, protection of Greek entrepreneurship, stress on Greek values and education, more respect for the church, etc., etc., and family values. Actually, interesting, very much against anarchism and communism, and and the guy actually got taken down for it. So they created the unfortunate title for their party. This happened in 2019. So that's very interesting. I thought I'd share that with you. Uh, there's a lot of Golden Dawn stuff in Hermeticism. There's a open source order of the Builders of Adytum, and the open source order of the Golden Dawn that actually does exist. These are modern groups, often focused on ceremonial magic, Kabbalah, astrology, and other esoterical traditions. I mean, yeah. So to come to this chapter of this book. Okay, the book is called The Secret Order Rituals of the Golden Dawn, with the approval of Israel Regardi, written by Patrick J. Zalewski. Very interesting book. Um, you can find the book. It's not difficult to find it. Amazon has a copy of it. Okay, so they have basically discussed a lot of things about the inner orders and the outer orders. A lot of it has been discussed ad nauseum. But there's also information about something called Wara Ra. Whare, Ra, meaning house of sun, which was related to the Smaragdum Thalassus temple of the Order of the Stella Matutina, an offshoot of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, operated in New Zealand, Havelock, North New Zealand. And they are still active according to the sources of this material. Um, and the House of the Sun. This is occult secret society, studied and performed ceremonial magic for the purpose of spiritual enlightenment, yes, I'm sure, with the spirits of the dead, of course. So on the backs of the dead, I must get enlightenment and I must get rich type of thing. That's always the case. And this article explains or explores the uncharacteristics uh, uncharacteristic longevity of this group. Obviously, because there was a feed of some sort which they wanted from this energetically. People get fed certain things and they keep focused on it. I mean, yeah. So its roots in cultural movement called the Havelock work. Its temple space and the supernatural contacts of its founders, Robert and Harriet Falcon. So yeah, that's still been going on. Then there's some sort of information on what Smaragdina means. Smaragdina means feminine singular, or Smaragdinus is the inflected form of Smaragdina, a change in the form of a word. So, in other words, a word that can be explained in an example of Eyes of Horus or egregore of archetype Horus. So, in other words, it's a word that describes an emotion to something specific. Okay, all right. In this book, they also talk about the Enochian system, which was used heavily in the Golden Dawn, or in this particular system itself, and also using a lot of information from the Rosicrucian order. So I'll just briefly touch on the Rosicrucian order, which actually means the red rose and the cross of gold. So essentially, you need the Sephiroth symbol, or the Sephiroth, the tree of Kabbalah, to anchor into a little triangle at the bottom with the cross at the bottom, so that basically anchors the entire trapezoid into place. It almost looks like then a coffin. So essentially, I don't know if they were aware that they created that or did they do it on purpose, but that was really essentially what it looked like. So the Rosicrucian order had been founded by Egyptian Ormus or Lichtweisse, who had immigrated to Scotland by the name Builders from the East. The secret symbols of the 16th and 17th century Rosicrucians, you can find that in that book, proceeding from the physical world to the inner worlds. God, the architects of the solar system, the source and goal of human existence, is found in the higher division of the seventh cosmic plane of this world. In other words, the seven planes of existence, or seven lights, or seven rays. They're all the same. The information with regards to the seven planes is the same as the seven rays mentioned in the Lucis Trust material. So it is the same thing. There is no change in that. It is not reference to anything that is inside, only that they are the ones that suggest that with a lot of this work that they're doing, a lot of magical work that's being done, little magicians that make themselves feel better about being who they are, that they can become God. So gods for themselves. Okay, I'm just being very, very rudimentary with the explanation here because this is basically what it's about. Um, Proceeding from the physical world to the inner worlds, which is not inner world, inner worlds as in astral travel into the astral realms. That is the seven worlds, and the seven rays comes from outside of the world onto the world, according to um, Alice Bailey. Same thing. Seven realms of astral dimensions, astral realms, and seven rays. Same thing. Okay? Same thing. Amorc, that's the abbreviation for what they are. Okay? That's what they call them, AMORC, focused on this particular technique, this astral traveling thing, as a as a sacred science, and included ideas from Socrates and Plato and everybody else, and Pythagoras and the usual. So none of these things are original. Okay, all of these things are coming from the outside, copied from other people. So the use for the red rose and the cross of gold comes from Christian Rosenkreuz, Order of the Rosy Cross, led by expanding into setting it up as a so-called throne of God and includes archangels and spirits. This is very dangerous. Four fraters, or fathers of this order, also erected a building to serve as a temple and headquarters of their order called the Collegium of Spiritum, the College of Spirits. Okay, so what has been initiated at the Rosicrucian school now is still the same. It's about politicians are profoundly human. Let me read this to you, and you'll see what I mean. They say politicians are profoundly humanistic and strive to serve for common good. All right. They say economists manage state finances with discernment and in the interest of all. Then scientists are spiritualistic and seek their inspiration in the book of nature. And then artists are inspired to express the beauty and purity of the divine plan in their works. Uh, Physicians are motivated by love for their fellow beings, I suppose so. Yeah. And so it goes on. I mean, this is what they are teaching. I can see how it's working. I say nothing more on that now. I rest my case on that. That's the fake golden age, propaganda, bullshit, waffles, brains type of thing. Right. So now we're looking at something very interesting. Uh, you have the ciphers, manuscripts. I'm going to show you right now in this book. Let me find the book. All right. Pages. I've put the pages there so you can have a look at it. You'll see it in the link. Um, these ciphers are based on names and titles and symbols all put together that comes from the lesser keys of Solomon. It is just put in a particular order that has an alchemical flair to it. Um, it didn't take me a long time to analyze it, other than the fact that I'm telling you it's just about the same thing over and over and over. It's about alchemy. It's about trying to create fire and water. It's about using information that comes from Hermeticism. It comes from Thoth, stuff from Thoth, material from Thoth as well. So it's all mashed up together. Um, Really sad. There's a lot of stuff in here about invoking and evoking stuff via the pentagram. Um, it is the same. There is no change in the information that they are presenting that is no different than the lesser keys of Solomon. Gods and ritual section from the book, which is what I'm going to be doing the chapter on. It's not a long one. So there's a perception on the understanding of what they perceive to be God. So now you know that the higher self is outside of them. You know that their focus on trying to attain higher self is either done through astral travel, on through the seven planes, and to talk to the dead, and to bring the dead into their life. So that's basically how that works. These are things that are fundamentally useful for a cult to operate and to continue functioning in the trapezoid system via rituals. So now we know that they are also considering that their god, what they call, is an exalted man. To them, God is understood, or their God is understood to be related to the Egyptian god called Neter, Neter. Neter means neter means the force, just like in that energy in Star Wars. Okay, so like a prism, they're right here, like a prism, this force of nature that permeates everything has many purposes or faces. In other words, the seven rays of rainbow lights going through a triangle, the same thing. Okay, the very same thing. Um, Sadly, there are those that are focused on Niter and the gods that are with that, that are attached to this Egyptian cult religion, and that is also sadly that's that thing, that chematology thing that's been created on the same premise through the Golden Dawn. So chematology was created as the same as another form of the Golden Dawn. Okay, so far be it for me to say more on that. Anyway, so Niter or Neteru is just like there is a light side of the Force and the dark side of the Force. So you can see where Star Wars comes from. But as I've said, the seven rainbow lights that come through a pyramid, crystal pyramid, is the same thing, which is based on the Lucis Trust as well. Uh, yeah, and the word Neter is described as an axe, and I'm seeing more than just an X, a thing that looks like one P, which is also related to the Cairo, but it's a one part of the Cairo. Okay, and it also to me looks like a snake's head. Okay, so I've put the information there for you to see. You can see what I mean. Or is it perhaps related to Mercury as well? The symbol is very much used as an emblem of God, is based, and this is lower G, okay? And this is, I don't care what G, because I don't believe in gods. People want themselves to be gods. I don't believe in those things. Okay, so as an emblem of God, or based on belief, what a mighty was a mighty warrior. Okay, so this takes you to the understanding of the information of Yahweh, which was related to or allocated as a war god of thunder. Okay, which then takes you to Thor, which then takes you to the Taurus, which takes you all the way back. So it's the same thing that's called itself, or was called different names. Okay, so Yahweh is the same as this thing. This thing is called the Mighty Warrior. Unfortunately, it's been obviously heavily misconstrued and confused with Ra, which you can see further down in the drawings. When you look at it, that or in their works, you can see that they are actually changing Neter to Ra for some reason. I suppose they were afraid of war, who knows what. Anyway, so then and then more on this is mentioned on as total contradiction, as to venerating God with the many faces, the many-faced God, um, idols, and frugal ideologies to enforce war, but never peace. There's never peace ever mentioned. There's nothing ever mentioned about internal peace or harmony. It's always a war god. It's always a this god or a that god. So as you can see, it's always propagating that frequency. Always has been. And then the same hierarchy of gods, exactly the same to the T, is aligned to the Greek gods, with the Roman gods right following shortly after that. So they all have the same type of gods. They have gods that do the same thing. Was it altered by the people that are inscribing the information every 100 years or so? Perhaps, perhaps. Or is it just because everyone's just been hoodwinked all along, all the time, by the same story, over and over and over? Very interesting. From the Egyptians, Hebrews, Mohammedans, and Christians believed in the same tenet of describing God. At the same token, the Egyptians give each part of God as they perceive it. So they create the pluralistic part of God. They write here. Let me see. What did they write here? The Egyptians, the Hebrews, and the Mohammedans have the same prayer, except the Egyptians give each part of the sentence of the prayer a God title. All right. So they also bring in angels and whatever else. So it's very much They say, okay, so the many faces of God is in prayer, according to the Egyptians, Ra as the Almighty God, the Creator, Thoth as the mind of God, Isis as Ama Elohim, the Great Mother, blah blah blah, Mart as the truth of God, Horus as the God of battles, Osiris as the God made manifest in the mind of man. But I thought Thoth was there, but anyway, the company of gods as God of hosts. But anyway, so that's that. And then God is one and all, in and alone. God is life. God is spirit. God is hidden, and God is the divine spirit, and God existent. This is the Mohammedans. But then at the same time, why are things happening the way that they do when it's described in such a way in their own prayers? So, yeah. Anyway, so then we also can see from the images here, triangles of light that's being used as well, which is strongly related to the Beyond the Thunderdome video. You must look at that, where the Kabbalah or the Cabal cable is attached to the triangles of light, of which the archetype fake hypercube Metatron is linked as well. Metatron is not a deity, so please be mindful of that. It is a element that is related to the mechanism that keeps the trapezoid functioning. And then we have on pages 59, which I'm looking at right now, 59, a nice piece of material which I've actually taken a screenshot from so you can read what I'm trying to explain here, where it is required to trap spirits to perform certain tasks, then using the trapezoid to exalt the spirits in essence to travel along the sephirothic tree, and then bouncing into the triangle of pyramid with the cross. I'm telling you that's what they're explaining here. I'm giving you the explanation of it, but they're not saying it. They're giving you a mythological, anthropological description of it. So this is how they hoover your mind, which is what they do most of the time in mind control. It's not just one organization that sits there. It's happening all the time. Some supposed um, truther channels do the same stuff to people. So the result is a cosmic Christ or Christos or crystalline form, in other words, trapping you inside of the cube as well of the material realm so that you will stay there. And this is most likely why these guys are still haunting their original work. So in their long-winded rituals, they are trying to manifest a godlike entity which, under their restrictions and their intentions, is something that is like a godling or a cosmic Christ or a godlike head, that is aka the pluralistic God mind or the Godhoods that seems to be running rampant right now. Their fake golden age that they are venerating. The cosmic Christ does not essentially exist. Understand that the word Christ is meant Christ, cross, Christos, crystallizing the cross. In other words, cornering and squaring the circle. Okay, squaring the soul, squaring it. There's a part of information that I've spoken about them using that as a metaphorical explanation of the circumcision. That is how you square the circle. All right, you circumcise the spirit or the soul off and put it into something that is materially related to the realm in itself. Okay, this is very advanced information, so please go through it slowly. Okay, so by now it should be common knowledge that these rituals are merely based on formulate and maintain the infrastructure of the Kabbalah as yeah. Now it is showing the snake, which is the black drawing, the black part, which is presented as masculine or male, which goes up and then down. Its head curls down again. So there's no chance of you to escape according to them. You stay in that order. Okay. Unlike where we are completely free from this. So then they mention something about fourfold form of Yahweh, which is not creative but redemptive. So they cut off after the circle has been squared or cut into the part that would allow you to actually create as a masculine principle within your mind, that is circumcised. So you're unable to then create, but you must be redeemed. You must work to be redeemed all the time. You know, you must be at the mercy of everything around you to be redeemed all the time. Okay. So then they also mentioned something about Sun in Virgo, which is the masculine inside of Virgo, which is an actual sexual act of creation, which they bring in as well. And then they transmute that process through Scorpio, which was at the, which is related to the underworld as a symbol. Scorpio is underworld symbol, okay, which means they then bring the actual act into the underworld or the realm, because that's the underworld according to them. Okay, then the Virgin Mother suddenly is treading on the head of the snake or the serpent, and then that the Father may be born in the Son, the Son. All right, so going down, going through all that shit, going through all the gates, all the portals of that Sephirothic tree, and then to go straight back up almost reminds me of a dollar sign, but let me leave it there. So Rosicrucian is the key to actually help for those that are stuck in doing this mental ritual that really screws with your mind, body, soul, and spirit. So you'll never be able to find yourself after you go through those rituals, which most likely can explain why they're so unhappy to begin with. And then the entity then becomes a divided, split up male from the female internally, which is that, and then it is then crossed over to be a cross of light. So from 4 to 3 is their next section of what they mention here. You'll see it. Um, their keywords and their words and their words. Please don't read all the words out loud, because I don't think that those words are actually healthy to even pronounce out of your mouth. This is why I'm not mentioning those words, okay, because I actually think those are magical spells in themselves as well. So the triangle of association with spirit, spirit is circular, not triangular. Just keep that in mind. Um, and they interpret spirit as a triangle rising out of the cube of matter, which is then creating that famous star, as you can see right now, which is the David star as a symbol for those who are not able to see the images. But in Kabbalah, it bounces back again, back down again. So it's a pretty tricky snake tree. Now the snake becomes Isis, and which is the feminine goddess, and then associated with Mary, then Sophia. Then she changes sex, or during the course, she becomes Osiris, and then she becomes a father. And then between all of this, the snake also then becomes an eagle, which is then described in that way. And the destroyer must then become the transmuter. And then they use the magical words here, which are used in which comes from the Zionist Kabbalah information from Spain, the IAO, but they've left out the U. So IAU, Yao, is according to the Golden Dawn means I as ego, O as eternal spirit. So now the circle, now the O is now suddenly a circle again, and it's now the eternal spirit, and it's in astral form. So um, in the astral realm, you'll understand if you do astral traveling, you'll find all these weird things there. There's a lot of weird stuff. And this is all based on these types of organizations that do these rituals that really work in the astral form to keep the spirit trapped throughout whatever journey the spirit normally usually goes after they pass over. And this is why I'm suggesting that the information on the philosophy is what will help you to circumvent that trash can pathway and actually really go in and then out the way that you should be doing it to begin with. So there's a lot of that heavy information on the rituals, the ritual of the triangle and square, dividing the masculine and the feminine principles with one another, and then creating putting the heart in the place as a scapegoat. In other words, the heart is then known according to them, as that thing that is created to mislead you, to be the thing that is that is being scapegoated, or the whatever you want to call it, whatever they use for it, the heart is the enemy in this case. So at no stage is there any personal reflection internally for any actions that have been done in any way, shape, or form. No healing of the self care, no love. The serpent then is meant becomes the eagle in this process. So you have Kabbalah all over again, over and over, playing itself out. And you're going in these little circles, in this snakes and ladders all the time. Okay, so a lot of the stuff is mentioned in the Lesser Key of Solomon's Goesha. Here is the screenshot for you to see this particular prayer, and the explaining what Iyao means. And that is in that where it says that man ultimately, remember, they say that I is ego and etc. etc. In other words, ego is God, God of everything. That is what they say. I mean, if you take it all into one context, you'll see that that is exactly what they're explaining here. So, on interpreting the notes of the divine white brilliance, or DW9, which is the next, which is the page 59, 58, sorry, 58, you'll understand why they explain DWB as something that is meant to be used. So, yeah, all effective rituals is a condensed drama of life, is what they say. Quote here, and a life again is a compendium of the cosmic drama. In other words, like snakes and ladders, all over again. Jumanji, all over again. The chess game, all over again. Checkers, all over again. Whatever you want to call it on the checkerboard, that's what there is here. Ceremonies are needed and rituals are needed. I think you're starting to get the picture now. So there's a lot of information. The word LVX, which means light of the cross. The cross is illuminated at the bottom of this Kabbalah thing. So you see the Kabbalah, the tree of Kabbalah, and then at the bottom it crosses at the bottom, and there's a little cross underneath that, which is where you go to, you get screwed, and you come back down into the world. You don't ever leave. You never leave. And this is the door, the trap door for the spirit and anything that is alive to get trapped into and sucked into these frequencies and these dynamics. Um, on the other hand, like I said, the information that we have is definitely it's helping us to circumvent all that stuff and really step over it. And this is why they're so upset and unhappy. Anyway, so to come towards the point of the overall information, I basically wanted to just give you a reference of why the Golden Dawn is trying to push this whole thing. Even though you may not know about them in the news, you can see their footprints all over the information that's coming out now. The plan is to invoke a cosmic Christ, which is what they've always been trying to do, but it's also coming to the form of a type of version of Yaldabaoth, which is just another entity or archetype of the same stuff from the Gnostic information, or the Gnostics propagation. Okay, so either way, call a spade a shovel. The information, however you look at it, is still explaining the same information, that the female is changing sex somewhere in the middle of the process, but only when the man has become the son. So he's still in control, according to them. And there's no unity between the male and the female in the consciousness of that process. So in other words, you are cut up. Your mind, the masculine part of you, is put there on a table or somewhere. Or no, sorry, it's put up there on a ladder at the top of the tree where Odin was hanging upside down. Okay, and the female underneath the tree is looking up at him, but at the same time he's standing on her head and she's standing on the snake, which is basically the frequency of the material connection. That's how it looks like to me. So I think you see the same picture. So to come to a conclusion, they are still using nothing new. Nothing has been coming from anywhere specific that is unique. And we can talk about these rituals until the cows come home. I think you're sort of getting the picture here. I needed to bring up the information of the actualized spirit, which is the actual golden age, as opposed to the fake golden cage, which is the entire trapdoor of the Sephiroth tree, the Golden Dawn, the Masons, the whole lot are all operating in the same pathway. There's no change. If I mean, imagine there were people that would actually look at these things, understand the meaning for what it is, and then really decide on changing themselves internally rather than to go and join a club to be part of something because they have a lack of self-esteem, because that's really basically what it's about. But it's a bonus if you've got lots of money to just throw around and change the schools, change organizations, and buy up land from people that have lived there for centuries, and use the minerals of their land to buy other stuff, you know? So that's basically what we're looking at all the time. There's just a regurgitation of the same information over and over and over. I hope that this information has been useful to you. I hope that this has given you some guidance as to where we are in terms of the information of your spirit, of where we are in terms of that, and in terms of where they are, and that they're basically feeling the pain right now as we speak. So all of the information is always out there for you to look and to discern from. I want to say that I hope this summarizes to you the entire process. I didn't want to do a long one. I apologize for it to be so long. But please, as always, use your discernment with whatever you take into your consciousness. And you can look at this, you can watch this video in chapters. You're not going to lose any time or sleep if you do that. So, yeah, I'm going to leave that with you. Until next time, I hope you have a splendid week ahead until we connect again. And thank you. Bye.